So although when we consider the coronary vasculature, we concentrate on the coronary arteries, we should not forget the importance of the coronary veins. The coronary veins drain the blood from the ventricular mass, the atrial mass, and they return it into the right atrium. The majority of the coronary veins terminate in the coronary sinus. The coronary sinus itself is the continuation of the venous structure we see here, accompanying the anterior interventricular artery. This is the great cardiac vein. And as we can see in this specimen, the great cardiac vein passes up the anterior interventricular groove towards the left coronary artery, and then it turns beneath the left atrial appendage and it enters the left atrioventricular groove. And then, as we see from this specimen where we've cut across the left atrioventricular groove, it increases in its size and it becomes continuous with the coronary sinus in the left inferior atrioventricular groove. The origin of the coronary sinus is the point where the oblique vein of the left atrium joins the great cardiac vein. In this particular specimen, we cannot see the oblique vein of the left atrium, but it is between the attachment of the left pulmonary veins to the left atrium and the origin of the left atrial appendage. So the oblique vein will be running more or less in this situation, and it joins the great cardiac vein to form the coronary sinus. And there is usually a prominent valve present within the venous channel at this point, the valve of Wiersens, and indeed some take the valve of Wiersens as the origin of the coronary sinus. What our specimen shows us very nicely is that the coronary sinus has its own walls within the left atrioventricular junction, albeit that there are muscular connections between the wall of the sinus and the wall of the left atrium. Then we can see very nicely that as the coronary sinus runs through the inferior atrioventricular groove, it picks up the veins draining the diaphragmatic surface of the left ventricle, and then just before it enters the right atrium through the coronary sinus itself, through the mouth of the coronary sinus, it picks up the vein that runs up the inferior interventricular groove, the middle cardiac vein, which we see here, joining into the coronary sinus. It also picks up, in many instances, a vein that runs along the diaphragmatic surface of the right ventricle, and this is the small cardiac vein. The important point about the drainage of the right ventricular wall, however, is that the veins from the anterior right ventricular wall cross the anterior interventricular groove, and they drain directly into the cavity of the right atrium as the anterior right ventricular veins. There are then multiple small veins that enter directly into the cavities of both the right and the left atrial chambers. These are the Thebesian veins, and oftentimes we can see these small orifices which are the openings of the Thebesian veins into the atrial cavities. But the larger part of the coronary venous return comes back through the mouth of the coronary sinus, having been drained through this venous tributary in the left atrioventricular groove.